with you as soon as I can." Then Mary told Colin about the budding leaves and the blooming flowers. That night, Colin dreamed about the earth and the flowers, the animals and the plants. He dreamed about the secret garden. Chapter 4. I'll live forever. The next morning, Mary went to Colin's room and said, "I'm going to see Dickon, but I'll come back." In 5 minutes, she was with Dickon in the garden. When Mary and Dickon started working, she told him about what Colin had said the night before. "In the springtime, everyone should be outside working," Dickon said. "Folks need to be listening to the birds and digging in the dirt. If people aren't doing that, then they aren't living. We need to bring him out with us soon, then he'll get better." "I have an idea," said Mary. "Since he can't come out here, why don't we bring the garden to him?" Dickon was confused. "What do you mean?" "I mean, let's bring him some of the animals and the plants from the garden." "That sounds like a wonderful idea." It seemed as if a magician visited the garden every day and night. When Mary went back and sat down close to Colin's bed, he began to sniff. "What's the smell?" he asked. "It's the wind from the garden," replied Mary. The next morning, Mary burst into Colin's room. "Spring has come," she yelled out. "Let's open the windows, Colin." Mary opened all of the windows in the room. The room was filled with the sounds of birds singing. A fresh breeze came in the window. She placed 2 potted roses on the windowsill. "It's time that you stopped thinking about death and humps on your back. It's time to think about being healthy. Come in, Dickon." Dickon walked in the room. "Hello, Colin," he said. Colin was amazed at what he saw. He almost jumped out of bed with excitement. Dickon had robins on his shoulders, and he was carrying a baby lamb in his arms. A little red fox also walked by his side. As Dickon placed the lamb on the floor, 2 squirrels ran in the door. They jumped on Colin's bed, and the boy cried for joy. Colin decided at that moment that he would go outside that day. "I need someone to push my wheelchair," he said. "I can do that," Dickon said. "You don't need to worry about falling either." Colin then called Mrs. Medlock. "Please tell all of the servants that I'm going outside today," he told her. "And I may go out every day from now on if the weather is nice. When I go outside, I don't want any servants to follow me. Mary and Dickon will take care of me. You don't have to worry about anything." "Yes, Colin," Mrs. Medlock said. Then Colin did something that surprised everyone. He threw the blankets off of himself and placed his feet on the floor. Very slowly, he stood up. His legs shook a lot. He took 5 short steps and sat in the wheelchair. As he sat down, Colin was dripping with sweat. "I haven't stood up in 2 years," he said. Dickon pushed Colin to the staircase. Then he helped him to walk down the stairs and outside. Colin sat down again in his wheelchair all by himself. As Colin was pushed along the pathway, tears of joy fell down his face. When at last they got to the gate of the secret garden, the children began to whisper. "Okay, Colin," Mary whispered. "You can't tell anyone about this place." "Quick, quick, push me in," Colin said. "Somebody may see us." As Colin was pushed into the secret garden, he gasped. The whole garden was alive with colors, sounds, and smells. The flower beds and rose bushes looked like they were painted violet, blue, yellow, and red. The roses formed bridges above their heads. Bees buzzed through the flowers and birds sang in the trees. Colin had spent hours imagining what the garden would be like. But he never imagined it was as beautiful as this. As the sun fell upon Colin's face, Mary noticed that he looked different. He had a glow of color in his cheeks and his eyes sparkled. "I'll get well," he cried out. "I'll get well and I'll live forever. I've seen the spring. Now I'm going to see the summer. I'm going to see everything grow here. I'm going to grow here too." That day, Colin got out of his chair and walked around a little. And when he came back the next day, he walked a little more. Soon, he was strong enough to work in the garden. As the weeks passed, Colin worked hard in the garden. Some days, however, he preferred to sit back and watch everything grow. One day, as the children lay in the sweet-smelling grass, Mary asked Colin something she'd wanted to ask him for a long time. "What are you going to tell your father when he comes home?" "I won't tell him anything. I'm just going to walk up to him and show him how healthy I am." Colin was as healthy and strong as anybody of his age. In addition to the work that Colin did in the garden, he started exercising every day. Soon, he became strong. He seemed to be growing as well. One day, Colin dropped his shovel and said, "Mary, Dickon, look at me." Colin stood up very straight. "Do you remember the first day you brought me here?" "Of course," Dickon replied. "All at once, I remember what I looked like that day." It seems strange. I was so sick then, but I'm so healthy now. Can it be true? Am I really well?" "Yes, you are, Colin," Mary said. "I am. I know it now. I really will live forever." "I wish my father would come home. I want him to see me now, and I wish my mother were alive too. I wish she could see what a strong young boy I am." "I think your mother is alive," said Dickon. "I think she's alive in this very garden. She's growing in the flowers and in the trees. She's growing in the grass and the bushes. And she's growing in you too, Colin." Chapter 5. It's me, Father.